Hi guys, this is tutorial number 7 and we are still working on the Big Brother theme. There are 16 cast members altogether, so we're getting there, we're almost halfway. And today we will be working on Derrick. I will be using a standard rainbow loom in the offset position. And the bands I'm using are brown, skin tone, blue, white, gray, and black. We're going to do the attachments first, and I'll start with the arms. And because Derrick is wearing a plaid shirt, I'm going to be using 2 different color bands for his shirt. I'm going to be using blue and white. And I'm going to start on the 6th peg from the bottom. And I'm going to put a blue band and a white band on the same 2 pegs. So a blue band and a white band from the 6th peg to the 5th peg, a blue band and a white peg from the 5th to the 4th, and a blue band and a white band from the 3rd to the 4th. Next we are going to put 2 skin tone bands, followed by 2 more skin tone bands. And we're going to cap this with a single skin tone band wrapped 3 times around the last peg. We're going to do the same thing on the other side, again using 1 of each color, a white band and a blue band from the 6th peg to the 5th peg, a white band and a blue band from the 5th to the 4th, and a white band and a blue band from the 4th to the 3rd. Again, 2 skin tone bands, followed by 2 more skin tone bands, and we will cap the last peg on the left with a single skin tone band wrapped 3 times around the peg. And now we can loop this, grabbing just the bottom 2 bands and making sure we have a teardrop shape. We're going to loop all the way to the top. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side, reaching down inside the cap band, grabbing just the bottom 2 bands, and looping to the top. And I'm going to take my spare crochet hook that I use as a holding hook, and I will be removing these from the loom. And you can use a toothpick, a barbecue skewer, a paper clip even, or you could just remove them from the loom and set them aside, and they should stay without falling apart. Next we're going to do his pants, and he is wearing black jeans, so I will put 2 black bands from the 3rd peg to the 2nd peg from the bottom on the right, and 2 more black bands from the 2nd peg to the 1st peg. And we will cap this with a single black band wrapped 3 times around the peg. And again, we're going to do this for the other side. 2 black bands, 2 more black bands, and a single black band wrapped 3 times around the last peg. And we can loop this. Again, making sure we have a teardrop shape and that we're catching just the bottom 2 bands. And these we will also put on the holding hook. and set that aside. The next attachments that we're going to do are the ears and the nose. And for that we will be using skin tone bands. I'm going to take a single skin tone band and wrap it 3 times around my hook. And I will take another skin tone band and double it and slide the bands from my hook onto the double loop band. And that will give me 1 ear. Again, a single skin tone band wrapped 3 times around the hook, and another skin tone band and double it, and we will slide these 3 loops onto the double looped skin tone band. And those are my ears, and they will go onto the holding hook and set aside. Now we're going to do the nose, and we will take a single skin tone band and double it and wrap it 3 times around the hook. And we'll take another skin tone band and double it and slide these bands onto the double loop band. And this is my nose, which I attach later, so I'm just going to slide it up my hook and leave it there out of the way. The last attachment is the eyes, and I'm going to use E-beads, which I have pre-strung on a piece of Easter basket grass. And I'm going to take white bands, a single white band, and double it and thread the floss through, and then I will slide an E-bead down the floss and making sure that I catch the loose end of the floss, and then I will slide it down onto the white band. I'm going to place this on my hook, catching both ends of the white band. And I'm going to do that again, a single white band and double it, thread it through my band, and then I will slide an E-bead down the floss, making sure I catch the end of the floss so that I can slide this E-bead down onto the white band. And I will place this on my hook. As I did with amber, you can use bands for the eyes, and you would just take whatever band color you would like and wrap it 6 times around your hook, and then thread it onto a double loop white band. And once you have both done, you will then take a skin tone band and slide both eyes onto the skin tone band. And we can set this aside. Now we're ready to band the loom, and I will be using double bands throughout. I'm going to start with 2 brown bands on the first 2 pegs going down the center pin. Continuing down the center pin, I am going to put 2 skin tone bands 3 times. And for the neck, I want to use 3 skin tone bands. Continuing down the center pin, I am going to use 2 gray bands for his t-shirt. And I will attach those 3 times. 2 gray bands, 2 gray bands, and 2 gray bands. Next, I will put 2 black bands, and we will go back up to the left side, and I will put 2 brown bands going from the first pin in the center to the first pin on the left, followed by 2 brown bands 2 times going down the left side. And staying on the left side, I will put 2 skin tone bands, and then 2 skin tone bands from the 4th peg on the left to the 5th peg in the center. And we will continue down the left side, and now we're going to go to his plaid shirt, which again is blue and white. So I'm going to put a blue band and a white band from the 6th peg down to the 6th peg in the center. And I'm going to put a blue band and a white band 4 times going down the left. Two, 3, 4. And we will finish off the left pin with his jeans, which are black. So I need 2 black bands 3 times to the end of the pin. And we're going to go back up and do the same thing on the right side. 2 brown bands from the first pin in the center to the first pin on the right, followed by 2 brown bands going 2 times down the right side. 2 skin tone bands going down the right, and closing off the face with 2 skin tone bands from the 5th peg in the center to the 4th peg on the right. And for his shirt, a blue band and a white band from the 6th peg in the center to the 6th peg on the right, a blue band and a white band going 4 times down the right side. Two, 3, 4, and we will finish off his jeans on the right side with 2 black bands going 3 times down the right. And we're going to close off the jeans in the center with 2 black bands from the 4th peg up from the bottom in the center to the 5th peg up from the bottom on the left, and the same thing on the other side, 2 black bands from the 4th peg in the center to the 5th peg up on the right. And we are going to cap this with a single black band wrapped 3 times around the peg. Now we can check our banding. Going down the center pin, I have 2 brown bands, 2 skin tone bands 3 times, 3 skin tone bands, 2 gray bands 3 times, and 2 black bands. On the left side, we have 2 brown bands from the first pin in the center to the first pin on the left, followed by 2 brown bands and 2 brown bands. And then we have 2 skin tone bands and 2 skin tone bands from the 4th peg on the left to the 5th peg in the center. Moving down to the shirt, on the left side we have a blue band and a white band from the 6th peg in the center to the 6th peg on the left, and we have a blue and a white band going 4 times down the left side. We then have 2 black bands 3 times to the end of the pin. The same thing on the right side, 2 brown bands from the first peg in the center to the first peg on the right, followed by 2 brown bands 2 times going down the right. And then 2 skin tone bands and 2 skin tone bands closing off the head from the 4th peg on the right to the 5th peg in the center. For the shirt, we have a white band and a blue band from the 6th peg in the center to the 6th peg on the right, followed by a white band and a blue band 4 times going down the right. And the last bands are 2 black bands 3 times going down the right pin. We've closed off the jeans with 2 black bands from the 4th peg in the center to the 5th peg on the left from the bottom. And the same thing on the right side, 2 black bands from the 4th peg up from the bottom to the 5th peg up from the bottom on the right. And now we're ready for our holding bands, and I'm going to take a dark brown band and wrap it around the first peg on the left and the right and the second peg in the center. Next, I will take a skin tone band and wrap it around the second peg on the left and the right and the third peg in the center. I'm going to skip the next 2 pegs on the left and the right, and I will put a single skin tone band around the 4th pegs on the left and the right and the 4th peg in the center. Moving down to the shirt, I'm going to take a dark blue band and wrap it around the 7th pegs on the left, the right, and in the center, and another dark blue band around the 8th pegs on the left, the right, and in the center. The last holding band will be a black band around the 9th pegs on the left, the right, and in the center. And now we're ready for our attachments. And we can add the eyes to the 3rd peg down from the top on the left and the right. And we will separate the eyes and grab one of the bands that the eyes are attached to and stretch it up over the 3rd peg from the top in the center. The ears are next, and they will go on the 2nd peg down on the left and the 2nd peg down on the right. Our feet are next, and they are attached to the last peg on the bottom on the left and the last peg on the bottom on the right. The arms are attached to the 6th peg down from the top on the left and the 6th peg down from the top on the right. And we're now ready to loop, and we can start in the center, and I will reach in and grab the top 2 bands, which for me are going to the right, and the next 2 bands which are going to the left. And looping up the left side, I'm going to reach in and grab just the bottom 2 bands, and I will loop up to the neck, making sure that I'm grabbing just the bottom 2 bands, that I stay inside the holding bands, and that I have a teardrop shape once I've looped the band over the peg above. And we'll loop to the neck. And next we'll go down to the right side, and starting at the foot, I'm going to grab the bottom 2 bands, and again I will loop up to the neck, making sure that I have a raindrop shape and that I'm staying inside the holding bands. Now we can loop up the center. I'm going to grab the last 2 black bands and loop them forward. And then I will have 3 sets of gray bands to loop forward. And when we get to the neck, we need to make sure that we grab all 3 bands of the neck. And then we will grab the top 2 bands, which again for me go to the right, and the next 2 bands, which go to the left, and the last 2 go straight forward. And looping up the left side, grabbing just the bottom 2 bands, making sure we don't catch the eye bands or the holding bands, and making sure that we have the raindrop shape. And we're going to loop up to the top peg in the center, and then we will go down and loop the right side, which we will also loop all the way up to the top peg in the center. And now we can loop up the last 3 sets of bands, and this next band is where we attach the nose. So I'm going to grab those 2 bands, and then I will slide my nose down onto those bands and loop them around the 3rd peg from the top in the center. And then we can loop our last 2 sets of bands, making sure I grab the bottom 2 and stay inside the holding bands, and that I get a teardrop shape. And now we can double check that we have looped every band. And you can usually check if you look from the side. It usually is pretty obvious if you've missed a band. And now we're ready to attach our slip knot. I'm going to take a single brown band and reach my hook all the way through the bands on the 1st peg in the center. Grab a hold of my brown band, pull it through, and form my slip knot. And now we're ready to remove this from the loom. There we go. And we are going to attach the mouth. And I'm going to use a single skin tone band. And I'm going to reach my hook in from the back to the front in the general mouth area. I'm going to grab a hold of the band and pull it through to the back and put my hook again from the back to the front, and I will grab a hold of the other end of the band and pull it through to the back, and I can secure these ends with a C-clip. And again, I'm borrowing this technique for adding the mouth from Cheryl Ann Spinelli. So thank you, Cheryl. And now we will go, he needs a little tweaking, and I'm going to adjust his feet by placing my hook through the first teardrop shape and giving it a little tug to the side. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Place my hook in the first teardrop shape and tugging the bands to the side. I'm going to adjust my cap band. And that just gives his feet a little bit of definition. And I'm going to give his waist a little squeeze in the middle. I didn't want it as defined as using a double loop holding band in this area would have done, so I'm just going to give it a little squeeze in the middle. And I'm going to fix the cap band here on his hand and put my hook in, catching all 3 bands of the cap band, and I will just roll it around my hook a little bit. And I'm going to position his arms so that they're not pointing straight out. And I will do the same thing on the other side. You can also do this by placing your hook in the bands closest to the body and just tugging down. I'm going to adjust the cap bands on this hand, and I will bend his arm at the elbow by placing my hook in the teardrop shape and just tugging the bands a little bit. There we go, and the last thing we need to do is secure the slip knot band in the back, and I am just going to weave that through a couple of bands at the back of the head so that it's tucked out of the way. And there we go. And there you have it. This is Derrick from Big Brother 16. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you will like and comment below. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can follow up with the remaining Big Brother cast members. And I will see you next time.